Fly to the bosom of your God and be comforted. With my last idea, I shall cherish the sweet hope of meeting you in a better world, were Hamilton's last words to Elizabeth Schuyler before his fatal duel with Aaron Burr. Though Burr may argue that his loudmouth caused him to get shot, many also argue that his affair with Maria Reynolds led him down a slippery slope into darkness.
Ladies and gentlemen, you could have been anywhere in the world tonight, but you're here with us in New York City. Are you ready for a cabinet meeting, huh? The issue on table.
Today we will be discussing the differences between the events illustrated in the play and how the Hamilton-Reynolds Affair went down in real life. But before we jump into that, let me set the scene for you with the two major events, Hamilton fighting to get his financial plan through Congress, and Eliza's trip home.
Elected as the first Secretary of the Treasury in 1789, Hamilton was a financial master. He created the entire structure of the Treasury of the United States, including setting up a modern banking system, establishing the federal budget process, and establishing the Bank of the United States. Fast forward to 1791, Hamilton began writing his fourth major Treasury report, which he would deliver to the House of Representatives in December of that year.
Hey, our kid is pretty great.
Run away with us for the summer, let's go upstate.
Eliza, I've got so much on my plate.
As Hamilton was very busy, barely having time to spend with his family, Elizabeth Schuyler, his wife, decided it would be good for Alexander to get away from his job for a while. Therefore, Eliza came up with the idea to go on a trip to see her parents with Alexander and their children, Philip, Angelica, and James. After a lot of begging, Eliza still could not get Alexander to take a break from work and take this vacation. Alexander decided to stay at work, while Eliza and their children went to see her parents for the summer. The musical was pretty accurate when depicting Eliza's trip, although they only mentioned their son, Philip, even though in reality, Eliza and Alexander had another son and daughter who went on this trip as well.
So now that you know the circumstance set up accurately to reality in the musical, let's talk about how it all started.
There's nothing like summer in the city.
In the musical, while Eliza and Philip are away at her father's house, Alexander Hamilton is paid a visit by Maria Reynolds, who claims she's being mistreated and abused by her husband, James Reynolds. Knowing that Hamilton is a man of honor, she asks for help, as she doesn't know where to go. According to the lyrics of the song, Say No to This, Alexander gives her $30, walks her home, and soon the two are caught in an affair on the first day he meets her. This scene was a mostly accurate representation of the events that actually occurred in starting their relationship. According to many historical sources, on a day in the summer of 1791, Maria Reynolds knocked on the door at Hamilton's Philadelphia home, telling him about her abusive husband and how he abandoned her and her daughter. With hope that she could meet up with friends in New York, she asked Hamilton for money to travel. When Hamilton went to her house to give Maria Reynolds money later that night, she led him to her bedroom where they began a sexual relationship.
I wish I could say that was the last time. I said that last time, it became a pastime. A month into this endeavor, I received a letter from a Mr. James Reynolds. Even better, it said,
Dear sir, I hope this letter finds you in good health and in a prosperous enough position to put wealth in the pockets of people like me, down on their luck. You see, that was my wife who decided to
The lyrics of Say No to This from the musical show that after a month of the affair, Hamilton got a letter from James Reynolds in which he blackmailed Hamilton to keep quiet from telling Eliza about the affair. Reynolds allows Hamilton to keep seeing Maria, which infuriates Hamilton as it seems that they were never really caught. So Hamilton assumes that she told her husband and that it was all set up.
So what's your full story? You set
I
up.
don't know about any letter.
Stop crying, goddammit, get up.
I didn't know any better.
How you ruined.
The reality of the actual bribery is very similar, except there are some important details that aren't shown in the musical. It is important to note that during the time of their relationship, Hamilton knew James Reynolds, as he had met with him regarding information about misconduct in the Treasury. Reynolds also came to Hamilton's office to apply, unsuccessfully, for a clerkship in the Treasury Department. The week after Hamilton submitted the report of manufactures, Hamilton received a letter from Maria Reynolds and another from James Reynolds. James Reynolds accused him of, quote, taking advantage of a poor broken-hearted woman and saying that he wasn't being a friend. Reynolds began demanding money to keep him quiet. A few weeks after this, James Reynolds requested that Hamilton visit Mrs. Reynolds for her happiness, as he had not visited since then. Hamilton kept visiting through mid-August of 1792, even after Mr. Reynolds told him to stop coming. James Reynolds and Jacob Clingman were arrested for committing forgery in November of 1792 by being involved in a plan to purchase the pension and back pay claims of Revolutionary War soldiers. They were helped by Simon Reynolds, a Treasury clerk who was related to James Reynolds. While James Reynolds was still in jail, Jacob Clingman was assisted by Frederick A. Muhlenberg, who was a Democratic Republican, by paying his bail. Muhlenberg noted that Clingman said that Reynolds had information on Hamilton. Muhlenberg considered Reynolds a rascal, but carried the story to two friends, Senator James Monroe and Congressman Abraham Venable, both Virginians and anti-Federalists. The three men questioned Mr. Reynolds, who said that he would expose Hamilton after he had been freed. Reynolds then disappeared, so the three men talked to Mrs. Reynolds, who released information about Hamilton unwantingly. The three men gathered their documents and wrote a letter to President Washington to reveal what they had heard about Hamilton, but didn't send it because they wanted to hear what Hamilton had to say first. As politics in the government tense up, people start becoming suspicious of Hamilton's intentions and try to get dirt on him, resulting in their claim that he is.
I can almost see the headline, your career is done. I hope you save some money for your daughter and sons. Your best one, run back where you come from.
Ha! You don't even know what you're asking me to confess.
In the musical, the song We Know describes when Hamilton is confronted by three men. In the musical, these three men were Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and Aaron Burr, all political enemies of Hamilton. They present that they found the transactions of Hamilton's blackmail payment to James Reynolds and accuse him of stealing the government's money. In this meeting, they tell him that they will ruin his career and will expose him. Hamilton then explains that he was not using the government's funds, but was involved in an affair that could severely damage his reputation. He admits to the men that he was using his own money to pay off Mr. Reynolds to keep him quiet about a sexual affair with his wife, which shocks the three men. Hamilton does not know if he can trust them to keep quiet about what they have heard. This is where the musical is very different from history. On Saturday, December 15th, 1792, Hamilton was confronted in his home by Frederick A. Muhlenberg, Senator James Monroe, and Congressman Abraham Venable. Oliver Wolcott, Hamilton's friend, was also there to support him. Hamilton admits that he had a sexual affair with Maria Reynolds, showing them the letters that he received from both Maria Reynolds and James Reynolds. He clears his name of speculation in the Treasury. Hamilton gives James Monroe the letters to further prove himself innocent of speculation.
Rumors only grow, and we both know what we know.
Eye of a hurricane, there is quiet for just a moment. A yellow sky.
Hamilton is opposed by Burr, Jefferson, and Madison, who have enough evidence to damage his reputation by releasing documents to the public. He is torn between two choices: to choose to keep the scandal to himself and damage his political reputation with Jefferson's lies, or to inform the public of his scandal himself, saving him of lies but meanwhile forever damaging his personal reputation, as his wife Eliza Schuyler and son Philip Hamilton do not know anything about his relationship with Maria Reynolds. He chooses to publish a pamphlet about the scandal, realizing how sticking with the truth has helped him in the past. The musical does a good job of quickly moving through the so-called breaking point of Hamilton's career, but in reality, there were quite a few things that were overlooked. Eventually, Hamilton asks for copies of the letters he gave to Monroe, and Monroe obliges by sending him copies through John Beckley, a Democratic Republican and clerk of the House of Representatives, who made an extra set of copies for his own files. Beckley also got the papers from a meeting between Clingman and Monroe. However, the three congressmen maintained their silence in the public for almost 5 years. Federalists eventually removed John Beckley from his post as clerk of the House because of his freewheeling political activities. Beckley called in James Callender, who he gave the letters from the Hamilton-Reynolds Affair. Callender eventually published these in June of 1797, printing all documents the congressmen had prepared for President Washington, saying that Hamilton had used Reynolds in speculation in government securities. He also said that Hamilton forced Reynolds to flee to another state. The purpose of this was to end Hamilton's career to threaten the future of the Federalist Party.
But wait, how did all these people get involved in such a private affair? Let's take a look at how this all connects. All this started with the main character of the musical, Alexander Hamilton, who got into an affair with Maria Reynolds. Maria Reynolds was trying to get away from her abusive husband, James Reynolds, when she began the affair with Alexander. This relationship between Maria Reynolds and Alexander Hamilton began while Elizabeth Schuyler, Hamilton's wife, was away on a trip to her father's house. Also on this trip were all of Hamilton's children at the time, Philip, Angelica, and James. Switching focuses to the conflict of the story, Jacob Clingman was James Reynolds' partner in the fraudulent activities they were arrested for. Along with that, Simon Reynolds was James Reynolds' cousin, who worked in the Treasury and helped Clingman and James Reynolds attempt their illegal activity. After being arrested, Jacob Clingman was helped by Frederick A. Muhlenberg, a Democratic Republican, who told what he had heard from James Reynolds. At the same time, while James Reynolds was in jail for fraud, his wife Maria Reynolds filed for divorce, in which Aaron Burr served as her attorney. Maria Reynolds then marries Jacob Clingman, who also had a sexual affair with Maria during the same time as Hamilton. Going back to the main story, Muhlenberg then told two other Democratic Republicans, James Monroe and Abraham Venable, about what he had heard about Hamilton. They then confronted Hamilton with the information they had gathered about the affair from Maria and James Reynolds. One of Hamilton's friends, Oliver Wolcott, was there as a witness to support Hamilton. Eventually, word gets out to Thomas Jefferson from Monroe, Venable, and Muhlenberg about the affair. John Beckley was the one who delivered the news to Jefferson, who wanted revenge after the Federalists caused him to lose his job. He then delivers the news to James Callender, who publishes everything he heard, along with the copies of the letters between Hamilton and Maria and James Reynolds, in the History of the United States for 1796. Callender accuses Hamilton of speculation with Treasury funds, severely hurting Hamilton's reputation in front of the entire world.
The Reynolds pamphlet. Have you read this? Alexander Hamilton had a torrid affair, and he wrote it down right there. Highlights. The charge against me is a connection with one James Reynolds for purposes of improper speculation. My real crime is an amorous connection with his wife for a considerable time with his knowing consent.
In 1797, Alexander Hamilton decided that he had to clear up his name from all the rumors that were circulating about him, trying to defend himself as a man of honor. Therefore, Hamilton wrote what he called the Reynolds pamphlet, in which he explained the entire affair with Maria Reynolds, how he was blackmailed by James Reynolds, and how he was not guilty of any speculation with the Treasury. He did all this in 37 pages, along with adding 58 pages of supplementary documents, which included letters from James Reynolds, letters from Maria Reynolds, Hamilton's letters, documentation from the meeting with Venable, Monroe, and Muhlenberg, and other documents to defend himself. Although his friends in Federalist Party pleaded him to not publish it, Hamilton did so anyway, embarrassing his family and ruining the Federalist Party from association. This quote describes how Hamilton believed that it was necessary for him to tell the truth. Before even explaining what he had done, Hamilton was trying to make it clear that as a man of honor, it was his duty to explain the truth about the scandal that rumors had suggested.
The Reynolds pamphlet revealed many details about the scandal that were unknown to most people. By publishing the letters along with everything else, Hamilton showed the entire world exactly what happened. In politics, his name was eventually saved, even though the pamphlet was used against him when he was running for president. Additionally, the pamphlet revealed to the public that Hamilton was not fit for presidency, as he was susceptible to blackmail. The musical does a very good job in quickly relaying the effects of the Reynolds pamphlet. They don't really describe what was said in the pamphlet, other than that Hamilton exposed himself by explaining what happened in the affair. In reality, there were a lot of minor details about what was included in the pamphlet, which was left out from the musical.
As a result of releasing this pamphlet about the truth, Eliza Schuyler was humiliated, and his family's name was damaged as he had brought Maria Reynolds, a woman of lower class, into the same bed as Eliza.
In the musical, Eliza sings the song Burn, in which she describes her feelings about the affair and the Reynolds pamphlet. She shows her anger towards Alexander for bringing Maria Reynolds into their bed, along with her anger towards how Alexander is so obsessed with how other people perceive him. She then burns the letters from Alexander from the beginning of their relationship, trying to destroy the memories. Later in the musical, after Philip dies in a duel against George Ecker, Alexander and Eliza reconnect and do not permanently separate. They live together until Alexander dies in a duel with Aaron Burr. The musical is relatively accurate in portraying this part of Alexander and Eliza's relationship. Eliza initially plans to divorce Alexander, but eventually she decides that she would rather stay with her husband, even though he's flawed. The one difference in this section between the musical and history is that Eliza doesn't burn the letters until just before she died, even though no one really knows why she burned them. She also didn't end up burning all of them. Some of them can still be seen today in the Library of Congress.
Now that we've given you an overview of what the Hamilton-Reynolds Affair was and the differences portrayed in the musical, it makes you wonder, what if Hamilton said no to Maria Reynolds when she led him to her bed? Would he have lived longer? The most popular route that Hamilton would have taken was to become President of the United States. As we know, the main reason he was not voted into office was because of his affair with Maria Reynolds. Without this affair, he wouldn't have hurt his reputation and would have implemented more of his ideas into the government we know today. Continuing the thought that he would have been president, this also directly connects to the life of the Federalist Party, which would have been around for a longer amount of time. Because of the affair, it made a dark mark on the party and led to its fall. Regarding Philip Hamilton's duel, George Eaker, the man who shot Philip, would not have been spreading rumors about Hamilton, and Philip would have never tried to defend his father's name, resulting in no duel ever taking place, and Philip living longer, who could have had a major influence on the government. And finally, if Hamilton was able to run for president because the affair wasn't working against his political status, he would be running against Jefferson alongside Burr. With Jefferson and Hamilton being the big shots of their respective parties, Burr would have been knocked out of the fight early and would not have necessarily blamed Hamilton for his downfall, most likely supporting Hamilton knowing that he could piggyback off of his presidency.